and welcome. This is Preeti. I am so glad you're joining me today. Today's video showcases the new Digi Stamp called Spreading Love, which I've already gone ahead and printed on a white cardstock, and I'm going to COPIC color using some yellows. This is a sunflower, so I want to make sure it's colored as a sunflower. Now, this Digi Stamp is very special from Crafty Meraki. All the sale or the proceeds from this stamp goes to the Ukraine Relief Fund. So really a good cause while you buy this stamp. Also, the stamp is so much fun to color. One, because it's digi, you can really enlarge the size of the flower to whatever size you want, which also means you can use any mediums you like. I used Copic here, as you can see. So I've started off with some yellows here, with a darker shade of yellows and oranges, and then I have just kind of added the darker shade in the dark areas, in the shadow areas, and then lighter in the highlighted areas. Now, I like to add blue colors, or any color that is on the opposite side of a color wheel of that color. So in this case of orange and yellow, it's violet. So I've chosen that blue violet color in order to add shadows, and I really feel like that kind of complements the yellow colors in a beautiful, that adds really natural shadows to your colored images. So as you can see here, I start off with a deep orange color, and then I blend the deep orange with some Y38, which is like a yellow orange color, and then some Y15, and then Y11, and then I go back with the BV color to add that shadow into the floral. As I said, this is a Digi Stamp, which where all the proceeds from the stamp goes to the Ukraine Relief Fund. And I feel that it's such an amazing cause, and not to mention that this is a sunflower, and if you are not aware, sunflower is the national flower of Ukraine, and sunflower is known for its resilience and its beauty, that how it blooms when the sun is blooming, and it's so resilient that no matter what, the roots hang on very well. And I feel like that's our prayer for Ukraine, and that's my prayer for Ukraine, is that they remain strong and steadfast. So anyway, so once I've done coloring all the petals, this for the center of it, I chose some really brown tones. So I started off, I think, with a E49, and I blended it all the way down to E35. Then I'm taking this white pencil, and I'm just going like randomly adding some dots to the center of each of those. They're like tiny circles, so I'm just adding those random dots. It kind of creates that centerpiece to pop out a bit, and you can see how it's popping out. If you look at a sunflower, the centerpiece actually pops out a bit, and that's what I was trying to do here. And then for the absolute center, I did some greens, and then I added some white dots in the middle of that. And for the stem itself, I went with some YG colors. So I started with YG67, YG17, 23, and in some places even 11. You'll see here when I start coloring the leaf. Now, some of the leaves have veins drawn in them, and some don't. Like in this case here, the one that I'm coloring has no veins drawn in them. So I am drawing the veins using my darkest green here. You can see that. That's YG67. And then I'm just blending it with the other YG colors. Now, the same way as I used a shadow color for the yellows, which was BD, for green, actually, I used a blue color, which you can see here. It's blue 24, to add more depth in those darker places. And that just creates a lot of depth. And then all that was left to do was Fussy Cut. And here you can see a Fussy Cut. I've colored two before I could make the video. And the one on the right side, the darkest color is YR14, and the one that you see on the left side, the darkest color, is Y38, and that's why you can see two different shades of yellows there. And then once I was done, as I said, I just fussy cut them both. And then here we're going to build a background. For that, I'm just taking this white UPO paper and some alcohol inks, and I just want to create yellow and blue background like the Ukraine flag. Again, this is to it's a sending you thoughts card, so I just wanted to make sure that it is that it reflects the country of Ukraine. So I just went with some yellow and blue alcohol inks, and then just kind of used that blower thing to blow some air to move the ink. And once I was done with that, I just heat set it lightly, and then I want the paper to be a little tacky because this alcohol inks can be a little tacky. And then I'm taking this gold foil paper, and then I'm just going to rub that all over it so that it gets a little sticky, so that the gold foil sticks to the background. And you will see, actually, I dried this background a little too much, so I didn't have it extremely sticky. You can see here, I'll show you another piece that I had done earlier where the background was a little more sticky. And then once I was done adding, I just die cut that using this die from Lawn Fawn, which cuts two layers, a scallop background, scallop frame and the rectangular frame. And then we're going to keep those two. We're going to use them both. And then also an additional tiny strip, because this Yupo paper is big enough, I had a little bit left and I didn't want that to go wasted, so I just cut that 1.5 inch piece as well. And this is the other piece I was talking to you about earlier, which I had done earlier off screen. And here you can see the gold foil is a lot more visible than the other one. It's mainly because I had not dried it as much. So if you don't dry it, the gold foil really sticks in those tacky places. So for the card itself, for the first card, I'm going to take this 5x7 white note card, and I'm adding that frame that we die cut. So the frame, I'm just going to add the inside piece directly onto the cardstock using liquid adhesive, and I placed it wrong. I wanted the yellow to be on the left side and the blue to be on the right side. And then I just adhered the frame, the scalloped frame, with some foam adhesive, so just around it. It fits beautifully because it's a part of that die. And then once that was done, I added the sunflower. Again, I added some foam adhesive, and then I added that sunflower on top of that. And that pretty much was done with this card. All that was left was to add a sentiment. And the sentiment I chose from Altenews Sentiment 3 stamp set, which I went ahead and stamped on black cardstock with some embossing, white embossing powder. And it says, always thinking of you. I think that's what it says. And then all I did is I just added some foam tape to it, and I added it to the bottom side of the image, and that was pretty much it. And then I added some gemstones. I used the Crafty Meraki opal, ivory opal gemstones, which I'll do eventually. And for the second card, all I did is I took this white card panel, which was cut at 4.25 by 5, and my idea is to kind of create a cut panel, so you'll see here in a bit. And in this case, I actually decided to go with the other the piece that we did on the video, the alcoholing, because the blue was more visible on that piece versus the second piece here. So as I said, I'm just cutting off 2 pieces from my white cardstock, so just a random 2 pieces. And so you can see there's 3 pieces. That center piece I'm going to get rid of, and in that place I'm going to place the alcohol Yupo paper piece, so you can see how it's going to be. But I'm going to build this onto a white note card, and for that I'm going to take the top piece and I'm going to adhere that using foam tape, so that kind of creates a little bit of lift out of the paper. And then I'm going to tuck the alcohol based paper underneath it, so that's not on foam tape, it's on level with the cardstock. I hope that's making sense. And then the third piece, rather, the smaller piece from the white cardstock, I'm going to again use foam tape and adhere that to the bottom, so that way it feels like the colored cardstock or the alcohol cardstock is actually receding and the other 2 is popping up. And then I just cut away the extra, and then all was left to do was to add this floral, the second sunflower, to this particular cardstock. And you can see, because it is a digital stamp, I was able to size them accordingly. So for the 5x7, my stamp, I increased the size, and for a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 cardstock, I decreased the size of the sunflower. And here I realized, oops, I actually did not stamp the sentiment for the smaller cardstock, which you will see, and that was the biggest mistake. Never do this. Always stamp your sentiment before you can adhere it with glue dots and stuff like that. I didn't realize it until I was done putting the gemstones. And here you can see I'm just adding those opal gemstones, and once I went ahead and added on this one as well. And while I was adding it, I realized, oh, I have not added the sentiment yet. And I fixed this problem. Though I did not do the sentiment on another cardstock, actually I stamped it directly onto this card. So here I've taken this little tiny sentiment from another Crafty Meraki stamp set, and I just chose the word hello, and I'm just going to stamp that right there in the tiny space that is right next to the flower. And I was lucky that it worked out. It can be a little dangerous, never do this, but it worked out. You can see how cute that hello looks. And that pretty much completed both the cards. I really hope you like this video, and I hope you support this beautiful cause. Go to the Crafty Meraki store and you can get to this digital stamp, and I hope you really have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.